It was unplugged at one point.
Oh, it was the bird, okay.
I'm also thinking about accessibility.
Yes.
Figured we could use a break.
But yeah, because even when we're talking about some of these other areas, I'm thinking about, for folks who have mobility differences or other, things that they may need accommodations for. When we plan, environments to be accessible to folks who have the most needs, it'll be accessible to the most people.
Right, everyone can use a ramp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Inclusivity?
Yeah, the feed off of Elaine and Katie, it's just trying to figure out, and it's such a hard, it's like, yes, it's easy to say, but how you develop it, but to help with the definition, the example I have is like working at the college, helping our students and people in the area get to certain employers that are big money makers in Oneonta, but transportation, it can actually make students or make people in the community not take that job because it's like, oh, I don't know how to ride a bike, how do I get to Brooks or how do I get to Springbrook? I've had students turn down those jobs, and I just think that's something where it's not an easy question, but how do we align with some of our big employers and make sure that bus routes can at least somehow go that way or at least halfway to some of those kind of outs, like on the city Oneonta line, type places. Because downtown businesses, that's different because, students can walk or community members can walk, but there's just sometimes those little things where I'll, help a friend in the area, I'll give them a ride because, they can't afford a taxi or something. It's just little things like you said, Elaine, like access. Not everyone has the same access or privileges, and if they feel like they have to have a car in the area, that can make it difficult for recruitment or retention.
Oh, yeah.
So
You
what
have
about
said designing for people, not for cars. Yeah.
That's good.
development too is, I don't know if it's still a big push, but like work at home base style jobs. So I know like right after COVID, we were talking about trying to get to the market of, this is what we have to offer, come up here, so we'd want to make sure that we have the kind of the infrastructure there to maintain it. So that may mean working with other outside agencies, but
Like internet service.
Wi-Fi hotspots, maybe the city would have to put up, like in a park, we might have to invest in putting in some Wi-Fi or something like that for.
So this may be more of a strategy, but one thing that I try to think about is not just taking whatever is in front of you and saying like, this is available and we have to go in that direction, but trying to think a little bit farther ahead of like, how does this fit into like what we want to do in the future? So does it make sense to, build this thing because we have a grant, but maybe in the future we want to, completely change the way we use that space, so it doesn't make sense to do that. So, yeah, just being like considerate of how it fits into future, long-term changes. Yeah.
Long-term focus.
Yeah, sure. That's all right. Scott's gonna decide what it says.
Scott.
Be able to adapt,
Mhm.
as Marine Corps say, adapt, improvise, and overcome.
Greg, the work at home infrastructure, it's primarily access to high-speed internet, is that right?
I suppose. Probably also, you could say that having quality housing available for people who want to come and live in Oneonta. Why would you live in Oneonta to work remotely? Because it's a nice place to live and there's a lot of things to do. That could mean a lot of things probably. The recreation opportunities, walkable city, having amenities nearby.
Are there parts of the city that do not currently have high-speed internet access?
Not that I'm aware of, as far as like when you hear about broadband infrastructure funding that's available, that's typically for more rural communities than Oneonta that don't have any sort of high-speed internet, where I think Oneonta doesn't really meet that definition, as far as I know. So I think we're in decent shape there.
5G cell phone coverage, is that?
That's not a thing in Oneonta. Well, it depends on how you define 5G, but real 5G is not in Oneonta.
There is one 5G tower, well, I don't know about if Ed's got any, but there is one 5G tower sitting up at Park Lake in Gillis. I don't know if one tower does it, I don't have 5G, I'm looking at how to use a cell phone.
I think, was it last summer, the ones on Main Street at Deed Street, what's that address, the old hotel building that had new cell towers put up? I think it's 5G, but I don't know.
I think Delaware County has more of an issue with cell phone coverage than
Yeah, they
Otsego
do.
County, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think this would probably have more to do with that hotspot that you were talking about as far as work at home infrastructure, because as somebody who works from home, I don't work exclusively at home, you know, sometimes I have to be out and about doing things.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to call work from home, I just.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, remote work, whatever, work from home, remote work,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, cause like mine is like a combo thing where I might be in the community, at my home, or in an office, you know, so I think just, you know, being able to respond to that flexibility that people need, you know, and having those hotspots so that, like, if I'm, you know, if folks are, you know, working remotely and they're out in the community and they have to access the internet because they have to write notes or, you know, get into a system or something, that would give that capability.
Do you find that you have enough hotspots that you know where they are?
So for the work that I'm doing, it's also HIPAA encrypted, so I have my own hotspot.
Okay.
I think that all kind of fits into the long-term planning.
Yeah.
So we want to plan a livable, well-planned development would be something that's kind of future-proof, to use a term, allowing that flexibility for different modes of working, living, that things might change.
Anybody else have anything on this one?
Greg, you probably don't have this now, but that's just something I'll talk to you about. Do we have like data of like our top employers? Like that, like,
That's not something that, I mean, Jenny, we do have a list of, he was asking, do we have data on top employers? We do have a list of some certain things. I don't know how often that's updated or where that source is from, but.
Really expand on it?
If you want us to right now, I don't know if you want to get to that now or we
oh,
can.
it's okay, no, I was just wondering, just if I,
Yeah, it's updated once a year for our bond disclosure. And my main source is the Chamber of Commerce. But when they don't have the data, I just call them directly.
yeah, I just asked only because, you know, I work with community members and students, so sometimes I don't know if it aligns the complaints, but I'm like, oh, maybe, you know, just do the research and see if that's actual, where the hiccups are, in that avenue. Yeah, I don't know if well-planned development, livable development, if this makes any sense, but like even like, we have like no Uber or Lyft or like public transportation's kind of like hard around here, so.
Well, we do have a transit system.
How did the nighttime shift run go? Does anyone
We'll have to have a report on that. I mean, I think there was definitely an impact.
know?
I won't quote any numbers because I can't recall.
People were telling me they were using it, so I figured at least somebody used it.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that was just separate from OPT is the thing, yeah, you know.
I put down transportation options aligned with major employers. And maybe you could add destinations to that, and destinations, like Southside, wherever.
Yeah, I just brought it up because I just never want our city to lose, you know, people that want to stay, or want to move here because of the small things that, oh, maybe we catch a trend and.
I'll tell you one thing that would help the city, and I've been talking to state reps, because we're not big enough for Amtrak, because that's a federal, and you gotta have so many lines, but the state would have to come in, and you're talking millions of dollars to get them in, because you have to buy the actual locomotive and the trains and all this stuff, and it's really fascinating if you want to sit down and talk about that. But if you could get a passenger service car from here to be able to get to Albany, Binghamton, and back down through, you would unlock the city, cause right now we're in a bowl. And so that might be something us as a council collectively may wanna write a letter, to all of us sign it,
That'd be great.
and start putting the
Definitely.
pressure up at the state.
Yep.
Because I've been talking to the state, right into COVID when I first got on, and the guy that was sitting there actually had a line already drawn out, and he thinks this is a great idea, and.
Cool.
So, he goes, it's also pretty expensive, you gotta convince the state it's worth the investment. And that would, to me, would be a well-planned development, livable.
I just, as gas guy, I already have data on that, so I'll speak with
Mhm.
you. Cause we have students where the bus is like 5 hours from New York City to Oleana. And then, but like with the train, that would be probably a little bit quicker.
But even those are becoming out of financial reach for a lot of even students.
That's the problem.
The bus.
The bus and the Amtrak, like, I know a couple people who go to college out in Albany and then going back into the city, it's almost $100 one way. To take it, get in the city, get a ride, get to the other train, switch over, go to bus, hit the subway, like, and it doesn't cut down on their time at all, it's still a 6 or 7 hour trip.
So it doesn't really become an option.
Right, I think because these options are becoming more limited, like the last time I tried to help somebody look up a bus route, it's like, it was so convoluted, like you
It
couldn't
is,
go from point A
trailways.
to point B, you had to go like
Yeah.
in a C, you know, to
Yeah.
get there.
So it's just one of those things, just seeing that, that trend. But I still think it would be worth still writing a letter because even with the expense, people might be happier just that it's more comfortable. Or it's, a direct
It
route.
wouldn't take very much to get both college presidents on board to sign it, and, cause it unlocks them, the colleges as well.
And it would be a direct route from Albany to
I was gonna
Oleana,
say,
believe it or not. It's
Even,
hard.
even places like Springbrook, I bet you, they have transportation needs.
It's a good homework assignment for the council, we'll draft a letter. Alright, is that it for that one? Okay.
Infrastructure and asset management.
I think this goes into some of what we were talking about last week, right, with the armory and looking at all of this. Kind of assessing how we're gonna deal with that.
I think the example is pretty good. I mean, it's pretty generic, but maybe it's a good place to start.
Put on the, other cities.
Oh, thanks. It's a different thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty succinct.
I don't think we really need to build that out.
I'll just read it. Yeah, provide safe, efficient, sustainable, cost-effective, and well-maintained infrastructure and transportation systems. Build, maintain, and manage capital assets to preserve long-term investment and ensure reliable services. It's pretty
It's great, yeah, this one is
Concise,
pretty
copy and paste.
cut and dry.
not that different from Minnesota in some respects.
I don't think there's much to add to that, I think that was pretty good.
What do you think, Chris?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to you?
Yeah.
Jody, did it sound good to you?
So I like broad, generic, easy to have things listed.
We have a lot of things that fit under infrastructure, so.
Yeah, and assets, I mean, that goes down to vehicles as well, I mean, fleet management and all that.
Look at the fire department, I'm looking at our chief out there, I'm sitting there and thinking about his assets and at the department and some of the stuff that's been kicked down the road on him. So I think that, you, sound good to you too, chief? kind of encompasses what you need to do too?
All right, next one is community inclusiveness, and this is where maybe we need to revise it, or maybe not. We have a / recruitment and retention. I think the discussion last time was, there was a suggestion to have recruitment and retention as its own strategic priority, and then there was discussion about, well, let's combine it with community inclusiveness. So number 6 and number 8 maybe can be combined into one, unless you wanna keep them separate, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I agree, like recruitment and retention feels like ways to get to some of these things.
Right, I agree. I think we should keep it number 8 and have community inclusiveness be others.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So just call it community inclusiveness?
Yes.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, I think, Elaine was touching on it. I think that our conversation about making things more accessible and affordable and making sure that and equitable, and making sure that our, climate emergency plan is comprehensive in a way that values all of our residents. I think those are all examples maybe of what this strategy is, which is really, I think, just bringing this into everything that we do in order to create a community that's fair and equitable and kind. So.
And I'm thinking too about, like community engagement, communication with the community. Like one of the things that was great about yesterday's workshop is like people were just talking to so many different people and putting up ideas on the board, so, transparency too, that was the other thing I was thinking about with that. And although I don't know that that really totally fits in this, but it goes along with communication, so.
Minnetonka mentions respecting difference, different perspectives. There's that inclusiveness of difference,
Yes.
Yeah.
diversity of thought, ideas.
Breaking down stigma, I've heard that come up quite often around, especially around conversations, involving, people who have mental health, impacts, so.
Yeah, it's amazing, going back to the accessible part, like how somebody in the area could totally be rubbed the wrong way just by our, I did a workshop on digital accessibility, on how just our resources in the city, if it doesn't help someone, be able to read it, like that could be a big turnoff.
And there are so many ways that things can be inaccessible. Like if you are colorblind, the world looks totally different to you, and the way that signs are designed and things like that can have a really big impact on whether or not you can, perceive things correctly. Folks who are deaf, I think that we have, for like blindness, I think that we have our crosswalks, right, our talking, so that's a step in the right direction. But things like that, just thinking about everyday, uses of our public infrastructure and how we can make sure that it's easy for everyone.
Yeah, and I don't want to repeat it, I think that I meant like more like assessment, like what do we have that works, and then what are some small things that, maybe we didn't see that because no one's ever brought it up before, and then, so I think that's a great way to.
Well, I think where people get used to inaccessibility, and so having to press and push feels like you're banging against a wall, and so eventually you just accept that things are inaccessible. So it's like, I think that maybe if we want to go down this route, having input from people who may be able to shed, a light on this, that are differently abled. necessarily us guessing or trying to see where we fall short, because if we're falling short, we didn't know, like, why would we know now that this is something that's not serving people?
We can, I think to Bryce's suggestion, we can make that effort though to make sure that this is a routine assessment and that could be the method that's most effective, and I would agree with you. But I think that it's on us to say, like, be constantly recognizing like that we need to, you know, be addressing, you know, the ease of use in our community.
Because the other thing that is, you know, bringing up for me that it will impact is it will help people age in the community as well. The more accessible things are, the more it's, you know, accessible for, you know, an aging population as well.
Totally, that's a good point.
Age in place.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That is a term that people use sometimes.
Any more? No, guess we go to the next one.
Okay, this one was campus and community relations / educational institutions and community relations, so I think that's kind of two options. Do we have preference?
I think we're trying to keep it down so we didn't have a ton of, like, list of 10, 12.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're trying to combine a couple of them.
I think with educational institutions, that is a little more inclusive then, right? Because it's including more than just the college campuses, you know, like we've got Job Corps, and although that is a campus too, I guess, so.
Educational relations.
Would we wanna have educational institutions and community relations if we're including the high school and like grammar schools? And it seems like, are we speaking specifically about the colleges and universities that are in? Yeah, it seems like.
Yeah, when we started talking about this one, it was the old saying like it was the city versus the college, and the college students not, you know, not
Using the
being,
city.
like, brought into the
Yeah.
mixture and things.
Yeah, I would say campus community integration, making us feel like we're like one thing.
'Cause I mean, we already got community up at top.
Yeah.
This is where the SUNY strategic plan might be useful, to see what I think they get very specific, they have more actionable items though. They get pretty specific in terms of, we had talked about SUNY doing a strategic plan that just came out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so just to kind of look at what they've tried.
I think it's just, you know, creating programming, you know, to increase collaboration between, you know, students and community members in a healthy manner is the big thing, right? If you create more partnerships and more strategic programming to put students and community members together to create things together and to do things together, it's going to decrease the mindset of having the negative interactions, which are going to happen. That's just a part of the development process. But if you create more of those partnerships, that will help. Even just this last year, the last 2 years, now I've been really impressed with our administration. They now open pretty much all events, but especially our multicultural center. They have events and they're like actively try to invite the community to come to events with students. So it's just one of those things that it should be vice versa with us with events, which I know we're doing already, but just this will help us as council or future council work with, you know, others and say, okay, what are we doing and evaluating it.
In addition to working with the students, I think faculty and staff, because they can be more integrated into the community. You know, the students, you know, when I think back when I was in college, I didn't have much to do with the town, but you know, the faculty and the staff lived in the community, in either right in the town or within a short distance. So that's something that I think that we could look at too.
Well, and also, just to draw from I'm looking at the SUNY strategic plan, just to kind of wordsmith a little with what they have. Perhaps establishing or furthering collaboration with organizations within the university. So they have research centers, healthcare systems, human service organizations. So working within the university structure, perhaps organizations or institutes, and drawing from their expertise.
Yeah, I feel like a good example of a win there is that we have someone from SUNY Oneonta's Fine Arts Department on our Public Arts Commission. And she has experience with like the Cherry Valley Art Trail and like, you know, a lot of really practical experience and obviously connections to college. The drawback with that, and we did have to make an exception, is that she doesn't live within the city. And so I think Don, you know, I know a lot of staff and professors who do live in the city, but I also know a lot who don't, because, you know, to go back to Greg's point earlier, you know, I think housing is really an obstacle to that. So again, maybe this is getting into key strategies, but, you know, creating housing options that are beneficial and useful and, you know, for all of the different groups. Obviously, Center City has been pretty like decimated by student housing. And then on the backside of that, you know, so that's not great for the community, but then is it great for students? I'm not sure. Maybe there's a better way to, you know, house them off campus. And there's a lack of housing stock for staff and faculty. So I think that evaluating housing underneath campus and community integration is important.
Okay, to go to the next one.
Good on that one. Recruitment and retention.
This one was hard for me.
Yeah.
It aligns with like all of the
It's
previous.
all of it.
Yeah,
Like,
and then it feels like it's the way you get there, not, I don't know, maybe I missed something there,
Strategies
but,
for it, it's all.
yeah.
Right.
It could be a
Yeah.
strategy for.
Like if we
But-
do these things, then
Yeah.
we'll recruit and retain people.
Right.
and
Yeah, that
not
might
pay
be.
monthly.
Right.
Yeah, that may not have to be on its own.
Are we talking about recruitment and retention for city employees or for the city itself?
Oh, that's a good
the
question. I
general
thought
population?
We're making this,
Yeah,
we're,
I took it as residents.
we're writing this as what we decided earlier was for the city, for us as an we're doing organization, not the whole community down.
Wait, we're not?
Like,
Oh, I took it as community.
Insofar as the city is responsible to the wider community.
Right, if we take the city
Yes.
as the nucleus, us,
Yes.
to start doing this stuff, then the stuff will start snowballing out,
Yes.
Yeah.
is how I took it. So if I didn't say it the right way, I
Yes,
didn't.
yes, yes.
Yeah, because I
So-
see this more as like going under some of these other things,
Absolutely.
rather than
Yeah.
being its own thing. I mean, it is a very important thing, and it's, you know, one of these things that we don't want to lose sight of. I don't know that it, yeah, I don't know how it evolved to, you know, be on its own point, but I'm not sure.
So we were going off an example
Yeah.
of Minnesota's, I think it was,
Yeah, and I
and
got
they
that
kinda
one
had
too.
it back and forth, and
And
we
then it
kinda
looks like we
modified
added
it
a
for us a
couple,
little
right?
bit, and we didn't, some of these were kinda like, oh, do we need it now?
Yeah.
Just leave it there for now, and come
Yeah.
back to it.
I think this one was suggested by someone. It wasn't one of
No,
the
Yeah,
other
okay.
examples. so.
I'm okay with getting rid of it, I think everything
Yeah.
we're doing is gonna encompass this.
Again,
That's my
I think we
opinion.
could, you know, put that as, you know, something that's being done under some of these other things, you know?
Cause technically you could put that under infrastructure.
Yeah.
you could put
I mean,
it-
even that campus and community relations,
retention.
you know, like, I mean, like, that's exactly how I ended up, you know, staying in Oneonta, you know, like, some of these things that we're talking about, like, I volunteered, I got involved in the church, I got a job, you know, like, all of a sudden, you know, I'm retained here,
Yeah.
you know? So, facilitating those connections, I think, are the way to get to that.
Well, maybe we could put that under recruitment and retention. Like facilitating connections with, or strengthening connections with our educational institutions and our employers in order to support, their needs for hiring
And retaining staff.
and retaining staff, and our own needs for hiring and retaining staff.
It's
We
always
didn't
better to
mention,
retain.
we did mention, to back up just a few prior, if we go, scale back up. I just wish we hadn't said anything about like families or children.
And that seems like
Mm.
that is important, we should, because I was just talking, something about like the teen center earlier,
Yeah.
things like that, so.
I don't know.
That
what
would go-
I think we were trying to with the college / but then I think it doesn't make sense, or we should just do separate.
Healthy community, you
I was
gotta,
gonna say safe and healthy communities,
Yeah,
right?
something about families,
Yeah,
supporting families,
Yeah,
all families, whatever that.
yeah.
cause, daycare during the summer is one of the big things we always hear, but we don't have the
Ditto.
funds to do it.
and again, just to put it out there, like when we're talking about childcare, there's also elder care, there's care for disability, needs, there's all, I know that there's needs, for support with all of those, so, yeah.
More broadly, and, support networks of care.
Yeah, mutual
Something like that.
aid, even.
Yeah.
So recruitment and retention, is that being deleted and it's sort of underneath a number of other things? Is that what I gathered, or did you want
I thought
to?
it was a really nice.
Yeah, well,
description.
that was a good, I would say it's good to keep it actually, because it is a model for, I feel like the 7 points that we had. Because you have to have a model of how to how to recruit and retain. It just got sticky with me trying to articulate it, because that changes every 5 to 10 years on how you recruit and how you retain. I feel it was different 10 years ago than it is now. Because the conversation I get all relates to kind of healthy families and the cultural things we talked about earlier. Is a lot of people graduate from college and they're like, well, I want to go to a bigger place, or there's not many things for me to do for people that look like me, or there's not, more of those conversations, so that kind of, it gets a little bit confusing, but when it comes to strategically doing something, like Katie, like you said, what partnerships do we have? We have colleges around us, we have, high schools, we have middle schools, what can the city what stakeholders can we partner with to create a more streamlined, right now, I did a trial with some of my students in my AOP program, and a lot of our students, come from diverse backgrounds, and we did a pilot program of university police, that was really well, did a really good job, so I'm trying now, write something I talked to Chief Witzenberg, and then if that works, Chief Knapp, once I learn more about it, I'll talk to you privately, with fire, just trying to get more model programs from our high school and colleges from populations that might not even see it as a potential career, right? Or don't have the resources, and we create partnerships to create the model to say no. More homegrown, creating these programs instead of just saying, hey, we're gonna do a recruitment fair.
Yeah, I think you talked about that at Wellness, it sounds really cool.
Trying to find it, just attack it early. Because I worked with a lot of students that probably just wouldn't want to become a police officer, but they just got a good experience with some university police officers. And we just had them connect early when they were sophomores or juniors, and kind of waited to see how that would happen. Some of them were becoming state troopers, some of them are interested in university police now. Where before it was just, undecided major or criminal justice major, not really knowing. So it can happen, it's not as easy as I'm saying it is, because not every student decided to stay in the program, but there are ways we can work together and say, okay, here are some positions.
So, maybe one thing we gotta do, this kinda goes probably more for all of them than just this, is try to get more into the high school, the city school district, and see what those student residents there, same with the colleges, but you always hear the city doesn't have anything for us to stay here. I mean, I hear it at the college level, I hear it at the school, at the secondary school levels, and somehow we gotta get into those areas and say, well, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
What do you want? What is it,
What do you need? Yeah.
Do we do any kind of like outreach to the schools as far as like engagement with students, that kind of thing?
I think departments do a little bit on what they do, like, I don't know, during fire prevention
Yeah,
week, I know that the
that's
fire
true.
department's there and stuff like that. But I don't think, like, I know Katie did it this year, last couple of years I did it, we went into the participation in government classes
Yeah, I
and
guess
talked
that's
to
what I
them.
was thinking, okay.
But, I was talking to Superintendent Brindley the other day on the phone, and it's like, how can we get in, hear what they need, what would make the city more vibrant for them to wanna stay, or,
Well,
so.
a random thought from the local waterfront revitalization program meeting yesterday, or not meeting, it's a show, right? I don't know, we could post it.
Yeah.
So, is that there is a lot of like public engagement, and one of the, parts of that is going into, or connecting with local kids. They were thinking like, 5, 6 and up about what they want to see at the waterfront, which I think is really cool. It kind of just ties into what you're saying, where, and what Bryce was saying, where like if you feel engaged with your community, then you're not waiting until the second that you can leave, So I think that's a good idea. Just more opportunities like that. So I just want to share that there is like one thing that's happening, and more things like that are cool.
So, NAACP, NAACP and the City of Oneonta Human Rights Commission, I was running the, Know Your Leaders workshops at Job Corps and at Suco, and the goal was to bring it down for the community, eventually, but, we had the chief of police there, and the head of NAACP there, we just had other, Jeff Doyle was there, we just had people who were in very different spaces and industries, come in and be available. And Chief Brenner, came with us and did a Know Your Rights workshop up at Job Corps, where they got to sit and ask him all the questions they wanted to. What's legal, what's not legal, what they should do if they get stuck, it was really really wonderful. But, the feedback afterwards, and I did a few leadership workshops, but the feedback after those ones in particular, because they don't have access to police officers on a regular basis, this presumption, that they kind of come with from spaces they've lived prior, and I think it was really they were putting Chief Brenner on their Instagram and stuff, taking pictures with him, and felt okay, well now I have somebody who's here in the community that I can email at any point, that I can connect to at any point, that if I need anything, I can reach out, and he was so good about it. So it is stuff that we have done and has been effective, just not little ones. 16 and up, I guess, but they've been effective.
That's a good point too, is that going to the colleges sometimes.
To them,
where you
yes.
have to start, you know?
Versus waiting and seeing who comes, because generally if someone's coming, they're more likely gonna wanna hear what we're talking about versus like taking it in. And it's like, a program we're running for that afternoon and they're invested and involved. Even if they got talked into it because we have food, that's fine. I don't care if you're coming for the pizza, but you're gonna leave feeling like a leader, so, but they, you know, it is stuff we have had in the community, just not young adults.
Under the recruitment retention, I just got thinking, I don't know when, how long, I know Don's been doing it because he's new and we've hired some people. And I can't think of the last time I ventured to the fire department to meet everybody, or I've gone to, even into Ginny's lately to talk to her. Maybe that's something we can do to help retention as a council, is to go and just visit the departments and see how they operate. And, you know, we do it at the beginning when we get kind of brought on, and then we just, you know, it goes back to the water thing again. I mean, we interacted with them, we got to ask questions, they talked to us. I wonder if that might help some morale, if they, you know, I would spend a day on a street sweeper. I just saw it go by my house, and that looked real fun, Chris. I would.
But you know what, I just
But
did
you know what I'm
that
saying,
today, you know, I went over to the police, you know, because I'm trying to meet with different people. I came over last week and met with Greg, and then I went over to the police station today and met with Chief Witzenberger, and, you know, like, you know, we had to talk about what his priorities were and what he's looking for, you know, and he said he really appreciated it, you know, and I got to ask my questions and get to see some stuff, you know, so I think it's a good idea.
I don't,
You
I
can
know
do
a
it
couple.
right along.
Yes, yeah, he
Yeah.
offered that.
Yeah,
too.
because a couple
So,
council members, they ride-alongs back when I was on, and I don't know, is that something you do, Chief Knapp? Do you guys do? I mean, I think that would be,
Great.
I think that'd be a great recruitment retention for, at least see what they're doing, so we're making the decisions up here.
For council.
Not to put you on the spot, you can say I don't answer or plead the fifth, but have you ever heard from staff what they would like to see from council or from the city? Like in support, you know, like if you ever, like, you don't have to name names.
Broadly, for my department, yeah, I mean, they would like to know that you guys know what it is we actually do. So if you can show up and see all of the things that we do and have an understanding of it, then they're gonna feel better supported.
Chief Knapp, and this is for Chris too, and everybody. Are there any things when it comes to recruitment and retention? Because I know it was easier for me to help some of the students with policing because of criminal justice, but just with like Oneonta, you know, the certain majors, are there certain like pathways or suggestions where you could get a student to that? We might not have a major in, you know, more tech stuff that like Del Higher Cole still has, but to say, hey, there's still a pathway if you do these trainings or just come down to the station.
And we've done work with interns. We have interns that are working for us in the parks this summer. We have interns working for us at the water and wastewater treatment plants. We welcome that opportunity to work with, you know, students at the colleges. There's openings every year in those departments. We don't really have an opening for interns at the streets department. I do, what's that? GIS. I was gonna say I have an opening in engineering, which we don't have anyone for this year. We were hoping to team with the GIS department at SUNY Oneonta. We were talking with them, but we never really got a posting together, working with HR, as far behind as they are. So that really didn't happen for us this year, but we're hoping maybe in the future we can. And then to add on, as far as existing workers, I would think they would greatly appreciate, you know, you guys coming to see what they do. I know they appreciated, the guys at the water treatment plant appreciated the attendance for the walkthrough. They're a little, what did Scott say? Get anxiety over it, but they appreciate that, most definitely.
They're gonna be a hard to follow.
Yeah, they're tough acts, yeah.
They're really.
He has even more anxiety now, we told him to do a video of him.
I mean, it's pretty, 3 hours, you know, of information. So
It's a
pretty
lot to take
impressive. Yeah, well, it's also pretty impressive that they were, you know, so knowledgeable and for such a long period of time. It was great.
For me, I think it starts with communication and getting in line with the colleges and at that level. Having someone in the HR department that can reach out to them and have an understanding of what the college students want is important. And this really kind of irked me because, you know, we're constantly looking for people to take our test. I had an individual that was in EMT class that was doing ride-along time from Suco, and he wanted to be a professional firefighter, and he took 2 tests out of state. And like how did we miss that? You know what I mean? So having that communication in between the 2 groups is definitely important for me. And then there's also programs out there that other cities have done, like you started to talk about, like without going into depth. City of Syracuse, they go into the schools and they actually have a program to where people coming out of high school can have certifications to be a firefighter. So now you're taking City of Syracuse, which is a large city and one of the biggest employers in the area, and taking someone from a neighborhood and then instantly inserting them into middle class. So, something to consider.
No, that's what I'll definitely talk to you, because it finally clicked for me, because that's what we did with the students, it was because we got a student that did the NYPD Explorers program. It was from the Bronx and had a great experience, and I'm like, light bulb, you know, just for our departments, and how, like you said, missing out on that one student that's like, oh, I'm gonna go home.
How many more are we missing out on?
Yeah, like, oh, I wanna go home, but they're not getting any callbacks when they could just have a connection, home base, feel at home, feel loved and appreciated, and then they're like, I'm just gonna stay here.
I just, from something that you said about, you know, the importance of that connection with HR, I heard the same thing today when I was talking with Chief Witzenberg about how, you know, important that support is to, you know, the police department as well.
Just a couple of more ideas for about retention and recruitment. Is one thing to consider incorporating in the plan is small business development for jobs in the area. So if, you know, I've talked many times about developing the rail yards and developing up around the airport on the city properties. If we can get small manufacturing businesses to come into the area that provides jobs and provides skilled jobs, that's one way I think of keeping, because when you have jobs, it builds families and it builds residents and it just has a chain reaction to the economy. So if we can get job recruitment in the area. Also, I think that there's not enough advertisement on all the things that the city does provide. For example, how many people in the area that love to ride bikes but don't know that we've got bike trails? Or that they love to hike and there are hiking tours every Tuesday. Or they like art but they don't know what Arca offers, or Orpheus Theater, or the Catskill Symphony, and all of those different things that you could be busy every night doing something with all of the functions that's offered at the city. And I'm going to go back to the bond rating for a minute. One of the things that I have to report to them is how many hospital medical services that we have in the area, and you know, all these different nonprofit services that are offered. So all of those make, as I said before, makes Oneonta unique. And just advertising those things to make people realize what a quality of life that they can have in the area, even though it's not New York City splashy, you know, options. There's still a lot of good options for people to enjoy their life here. And I just think advertising those would be a nice way to recruit and retain people.
I think too, on the flip side of that, just thinking back to Scott's suggestion of like a commuter rail between Binghamton and Albany, and obviously us in the middle, is there are a lot of jobs that we don't have, and for one reason or another wouldn't be sustainable here, but they are in like those bigger cities, and a commuter rail would allow people who have a specific niche that, only exists in those bigger cities, to be able to choose to live in our community where we do have, all the amenities that you were talking about and all these great things. They may want to do that, but commuting an hour each way is hard,
And I understand that,
I
and
think
just so you
that's
know,
really important.
Amtrak has been looked into before, Scott, I don't know what progress has been made on it, but the last report I got on it, I was told that they would have to lay new track the entire way. So it wouldn't be millions, it would probably be closer to.
It's not Amtrak. Amtrak won't go through, we don't have enough.
It's CRX probably.
Right, it's state, and you have to work with Norfolk Southern, who has the railroad, to get access to using their rails, and
But are there rails qualified, or rated high enough for passenger travel? That's what I was told.
the guy from the state, and I can't think of his name, it escapes me right now, the guy from the state said he already had this mapped out. He says, I looked at this before, and he goes, this is a great idea, and he goes, the problem is trying to get the state on board with it. Because it's an investment, and you gotta show a return, which means you have to get the colleges on board, that, yes, they're gonna be interested, and,
I'm just gonna throw it out there that with climate change, people are moving from coasts. There's gonna be massive migration probably. The Northeast is actually poised to be a fairly okay region in the US compared to other regions. And so it's definitely something, in terms of projecting the future, the increase in population just from climate migration alone could make a difference.
in New York State
It could
is
shift balance.
doing a lot of investment
Yes,
in the public transportation.
yes.
What did that guy from the state say, what department of the state would run a railroad?
It falls underneath the Department of Transportation.
Because they don't run a railroad, as far as I know. The only state railroad is.
It falls underneath the Department of Transportation. I'm answering your question, Don. It falls underneath the Department of Transportation.
Right.
They don't run it, but it falls underneath them to come up with this stuff. That's who they get. He works underneath the Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Okay, I think we've gone through all 8, we've got a little time left.
Got a half hour.
Half an hour, exactly. Do we want to go back up top and start at number 1 again and start talking about key strategies, or how do you want to do it? Do that. Work for you, Chair?
However you wanna do it.
Okay. So financial strength,
Well, this is,
Question?
I'm asking the council, can we just start with 2? I feel like one's always like, financial's a harder one.
This is two. You can start,
At
you
least
can
for me.
start the last one and work backwards if you want.
It's okay.
I have a question about key strategies. Is that something council sets, or is that something that the city staff would work at to try to accomplish what we're?
I see it as, like, when you look at the ones that, from the example from Minnesota, I see it as something that the council sets in collaboration with the staff. So I think ultimately, hopefully where we get to, maybe it's in a month's time, the council would pass a motion approving the strategic priorities and the key strategies, say this is what we've agreed on, and then they give that to staff and say, okay, staff, now tell us how we're gonna accomplish this, and that's where we come up with the actions. And we come back to the council, collaborate more, and that's more staff driven, but with council collaboration. So it kinda, we're going top down right now, and then staff come bottom up, and we meet in the middle. But I think ultimately these are, council approves these, but I think there should be as much collaboration with staff as you would like.
So should we draft the key strategies based on the definition? Is that what we're drawing from the key strategies from?
Yeah, from the definition, and yes, I can get a little bit more specific to Oneonta at this point, but they're still pretty vague, pretty open, so that there could be a lot of different actions that could apply to that strategy. So I guess, are we starting with number 2 then, safe and healthy community?
That was just a question.
That's fine.
I have to. Just for a little bit. I think a big thing for me is just, at least just in my ward, just, you know, friends of mine in the city, is just identifying, like, I'm not gonna say it's outside of the box resources, but like trying to think about the future. Like, for example, we've had a huge increase, which I know you guys all know, but I've been at Oleana for 5 years. A huge increase of students with mental health needs that are diagnosed on the college campus. And the counseling center can only do so much, and they do an amazing job, but they can only see the students so many times and whatnot. So now there's this new, you know, they've been working with a lot of things within the state or through other organizations with telecounseling and other outreach support services. So it's just something that, just in the area, I feel like we'd have to have a conversation with the county, but like, what is our collaboration plan to work with the county to help our community members get the sufficient supports that they need.
Sounds like you're talking like systems of care, right?
Systems of
like
care.
something like that where, you know, because it's mental health, you know, because we got a couple of other ones that, you know, fit in under, you know, kind of care, right?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes people who are in one system also need support from another system as well. So.
Right. It feeds off, it's also educational component too, because that's just the reality. It's just like, if people don't understand how the system works and they see that people are struggling, a lot of people unfortunately are going to assume that their community is not safe. I wish I could sugarcoat it, but that's how it is. So I feel like we have to be proactive and say, okay, well, what's out there that's not being utilized? Maybe it's, you know, federal, maybe it's state, you know, like, what are just some things that we can control and what are the things we can't control? And just go from there. And then, obviously, you can't solve everything with, like, counseling services, so the next step is obviously programming. You know, people like things to do in community and everything we talk about in the wellness committee. But it's, you know, I just feel like a lot of the complaints I get in the city, I try to work with my residents and people I know and say, listen, like, that you can't solve this problem right now. Like, you can slowly do things, but we're seeing things that we've never seen before, and it's gonna take some time to create a short-term and long-term plan. So you have to have those conversations. But in the meantime, you can create a lot of programming to bring people together and also educate, so you don't have that stigma. Nikki?
Thanks, Bryce. I'm thinking of two things. One is community paramedicine and how that fits in here. We had a presentation at Community Wellness last in the fall, about community paramedicine, and it's like it would be like a big lift, but I think the benefit of that is that one of the things that I heard, and definitely correct me if I'm misremembering, but there's sort of like a regular check-in schedule to make sure that folks in our community who are struggling are connecting with, like, A, that they're okay, and B, that they're connecting with like the services that they need to connect to and stuff like that. So I think if we could work toward that, there's value in it. And I had another thing, but my brain is gone. Oh, nope, I got it. Okay, again, community wellness. Prior to most of you guys on this council, we had talked about, again, just like how do we as a city sort of bolster and facilitate the services that are available. And what we heard from the service organizations was that there's a disconnect between the organizations who need volunteers and the people who want to volunteer. Like, they don't know what the opportunities are, what the time commitment is, what the effort level is, you know, what kind of work they'd be doing and that kind of stuff. So we had talked about at that time, and Mark, being the website guy, was very into this, but he's gotten since then very busy. facilitating a space on our website where we maintain connections with, like a database of the service organizations who need volunteers. And so anyone who's interested in volunteering could just go to the website and put in like, I'm available on Tuesday afternoons and I'm interested in, helping out with kids or, that kind of thing. And it would like match you kind of with organizations that have needs. And I feel like, you had mentioned mutual aid and I feel like that's a really good first step
I have
to.
something for that.
Oh, cool. Yes,
Yeah,
let's do it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
Because I'm just thinking, like, one of the things that I was involved in, shortly before I joined council was, this group that was specifically working to, help identify and fill some of those gaps.
Mhm.
They've been meeting over at the UU Church, Oneonta Thrives. They're not gonna meet again until July, but I think, that might be a good kind of fit, because that's exactly what they were trying to get at.
Just to backtrack a little and spin off of what Bryce was saying is access, right? Like having things from the community that's also state aid, and some federal aid is in the meadows on the way to Cooperstown, and so there's no access for our citizens. It's even when there's voting, if you're going all the way to the meadows or down by the meadows to go vote, not everybody's gonna have access to vote. So transportation is a big thing, and I was thinking, when you were talking about the transportation, all the mutual aid stuff, like, did anyone ever do DARE?
Mhm.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
does anyone remember, like, if you, like, did a good job, they gave you, like, a little card and you could, like, get things with it? Okay, mine is just special. Okay,
I
so,
like
like,
free ice cream. I think
my,
that's a-
yeah. So, like, they incentivized you participating in the program. Like, what if we did something, like, similar that was, like, for rides, right? Like, where it's, like a buddy plan or something, or, like, a ride share where I'm going your way, or if I'm going to work, or we work in the same place, there's, like, incentivized to ride share or to take somebody, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it was just a thought when you were talking about transportation. Cause really, getting people over to Brooks or Price Chopper or whatever is a 6-minute max, commitment. Anyway, sorry.
That's actually one of the things that I've heard the most about, like people in our community who need assistance, they're either differently abled or aging, is that they just need rides to the grocery store, to appointments, and taxis are so expensive. And if there was a community network of people who were willing to give rides, that would be like huge for that population.
Is there a way to grow our public transportation outside of
I was
the
gonna
bus?
I was gonna say, we have the community paratransit program that many of those people may qualify for, or maybe they don't know anything about it, where they can get a ride to the appointment they need to go to. That's something that we can have Dave Hotel do more of a in-depth presentation on.
Yeah.
And that's by appointment, so they
Yeah.
pick them right up.
Oh, no way.
Door to door.
Yeah.
What?
And that
Then we
was
need to
for
put in
medical
bolster
appointments
community
specifically though, right?
What's that?
For medical appointments specifically? Or does paratransit do other? Because I know that that's
Definitely
what, the
medical
population that I work with, that's what they sign up for Medicaid transport, and that's great to get to appointments, but it's when they're going to work or errands and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can have
Okay.
Dave Hotel explain more about that.
Yeah, totally.
That was my question.
I mean, just going back to one of the things Katie said, we were talking about community paramedicine.
Mm-hmm.
I see that as like an action that's very specific, that's,
Okay,
that's
gotcha,
one way
yeah.
to get there. But the second thing you said right after that was connecting people in need with available services. So
Communications.
that seems to be something like that, I think is like the level 2 key strategy. How do we connect people? Same thing with community paramedicine, those might be 2 actions that go underneath that strategy.
Okay, gotcha.
So I think we're on the right track. And I think to your point, Scott, getting staff input, we're kind of making some bullets again. I think we'll take this back, we can talk about, maybe we come back with distilling these into some key strategies and go back and forth.
I was wondering, did you wanna take like the definitions that we started working on to the staff too and get a little bit of their input? And see if there's something they wanna put in there before you write something definite?
Yeah, no, I think we'll do that. And we can go back and have another iteration.
going back to the water tour for a safe community, two of the largest items that we provide for the community to be safe is our clean water and our sanitary sewer. So those are two life-supporting services that the city provides the community. So the investment in the infrastructure in both of those plants, and not only the plants, but the distribution systems, is crucial.
Yeah, I feel like this should almost be like a Venn diagram, but like a really, like, kind of like an open one, where just like things kind of are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think this was maybe mentioned before, but with safe and healthy community, walkability, and I guess, do we want to incorporate park systems, recreation in some way into this?
Yeah,
Priority.
I think accessibility and walkability with all of those, and connectivity, you know?
Well, that kind of goes back to Steve Euring's presentation on the 15-minute city.
Yeah.
You know, where you can get to, and of course, I'm a great supporter of inner neighborhood markets, because the people that don't have cars to get over to Southside, they can just walk down to the corner store to get their milk or whatever. So having those opportunities within all of the neighborhoods, I think, is really something to consider.
Well, I like the idea too of like, you know, there are streets in places with big old houses, and rather than being chopped up for student rentals, they're like, you know, I'm thinking of Saratoga, even, there's like a wine bar on the first floor and housing on the second floor. Or, I mean, maybe a bar is not a great example, I'm just thinking of one specifically, but, you know, there's like a salon on the first floor and housing on the second floor, or offices on the second floor. And they're just like different uses of these already built spaces, rather than, you know, just chopping them up. So.
It's maybe more flexible zoning for mixture of uses.
I don't know if that's a safe and healthy communities thing.
Maybe
I was
not.
just riffing there on what I would love to see.
It's almost infrastructure
Yeah,
too.
yeah. And thoughtful development, or whatever,
Yeah.
that's planned, well planned.
I can put that down there.
So I have a feeling too, when we get more final, there's probably not gonna be like 7 points to all of these, right? Are we trying to get to like a smaller number of items?
I mean, the idea was like 3 or 4 key strategies per strategic priority, and then for each key strategy, you know, rule of thumb was like up to 7, no more than that. I mean, that at some point it gets unwieldy if you have too many actions and you're not really being that strategic anymore, but.
And some of them probably tie into each other anyway, like we'll list them out, and then the staff will have
And they
theirs,
might
and then they'll kind of merge back, and, you know, like, is this a strategy? No, this is actually the action plan to get there versus, you know.
All right, wanna jump on to the next one? Sustainability, natural environment?
Can we just go back to 2?
Oh, yeah.
And like, for the fire department, for me, you know, going back to the conversation about you guys coming to the department and really having an understanding of what we do, I think it'll be really important, because there's things that we do that you guys probably really have no idea, but it's something essential for our area because we're on an island here and no one else does that. So for instance, when the car went into Newall Pond through the ice, our guys were trained for that and had the proper equipment and were able to go out and do that rescue. If we had to wait, that's something that we would have to wait for an hour, and that person would have been affected in a different way. So it wouldn't have been favorable. So like, being able for you guys to understand it and then say, yes, we want that service, that's important for me, so now that I can go down through my priorities and stuff and be able to say, okay, we want this is what we have to do, this is the training that's required, and everything that it entails, so I just wanted to add that in there. And also, when we're talking about safe communities, one thing for me is like programs. The one box, the Narcan box, I think that is fantastic. But that is reactive to something that has already happened. For our community, if we're really trying to get a safe community, a healthy community, I wanna go back to being proactive and getting into the schools, like you talked about the DARE program, and having these conversations with kids and trying to prevent it in our community instead of just being reactive. So I feel like if we can create programs like that, it would also be beneficial for us.
Proactive community education and programming for long-term.
But we have to give them the
Success.
funding to do that. We have to make sure we give them the budget giving. I'm sorry, just.
Everything you're talking about, it doesn't matter what you list, it all costs money. So, I mean, it's just, keep that in mind.
That's why I wasn't looking your way.
But no, it's a good thing, because it puts it into perspective. You know, when things are brought to you for funding, it depends on what community you want, what services you want to provide. And every community member that lives in Oneonta is going to want all of these things.
Mhm.
They just have to be willing to pay for them.
And I think that's why it works, I think, to have these key strategies be still pretty high level, pretty vague, and then we give it to the staff to determine what are the best actions that, given our resources and capabilities, to take to get there, so that we're not missing something that, you know.
What do they see as priorities for the city? What services do they want to see? I don't know the best way of doing that. I mean, that's like knocking
Survey.
on doors,
Well,
but.
that's the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I should say that there's a whole big process, but there's a comprehensive plan that I think ultimately the strategic plan, the comprehensive plan should align as far as probably the strategic priorities, those categories would be the things that the community should look at as well.
I'm just thinking, we're going down through and doing this, and I'm sure I'm gonna start getting phone calls. Why are you guys talking about this? This isn't really what we want. We need this, we need, you know.
I'm just laughing because I know where the first one's gonna be from.
Which I'm okay with. I'm okay getting the calls. I don't wanna, I'm just trying to think. Because by the time we sit there and say, well, you know, if you want all this, this is what it's, you know, because we did it the other day in the quality of life, when we brought up the whole, grass removal, you know, brush removal, stuff like that, and Chris gave us rough numbers of, I don't know, like almost an extra $500,000 or something like that. To do it two times a week or something like that, or 3 times a week versus what we're doing now, by the time you did your labor and.
Can I ask, is there an easier way to do it? I mean, I just feel like, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Like,
Oh, we
I
got
just
9 minutes left.
okay.
9 minutes.
Looking at me, I'm not gonna necessarily stop the meeting.
No, I'm just,
If we're gonna keep going though, can I take a pause?
my orders that I got was we're supposed to stop at 8 o'clock.
I wanna go home.
So if you wanna take a pause now and come back to end the meeting, that's up to you.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you just meant if we were gonna go past 8.
Yeah,
Yeah. But we're not.
No,
We're all on the same page.
Yep.
no,
Okay, I'll talk to you about it.
So we're gonna have to make another day to come to finish this?
yep.
Let's see.
You wanna work on a date now? Cause that might take about the last
You're right.
8 minutes. But you wanna finish your thing first, Katie?
No, it's okay. I'll
Okay.
talk about it.
Well, I was gonna just mention, just in response to your concern about constituents coming,
Mhm.
saying, you know, I think, you know, it's important to keep, it's not a budget process yet. It's really not talking specifics, it's more just generally what the whole purpose of what we're doing here is. So that constituents, the residents may have some concerns with, but these seem like fairly
You put it in a good way. None of this is affecting the budget. This is just trying to come up with something that,
Just a broader plan about what we're doing
to
here.
help our city staff when they decide when it comes for the budget.
Yeah, exactly.
And for our residents watching, then, like you said, Scott, when we get that feedback and it's shared, it can help with the comprehensive plan or this. So it's kind of just putting it out there and then, oh, we got some more data and more feedback.
More knowing that we're taking the time to prepare, and, for that budget process.
But I hear you, Scott, for sure. I will deal with the same thing.
All right, everybody got their calendars. We got, July 4th holiday. You wanna try July, or, I know I don't know what you guys' preference is, vacations and stuff coming up, and what you guys thinking?
Beginning of July would be better for me.
Okay,
Ooh, okay.
I'm here.
Oh, geez, Louise.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, it looks like you could,
What's Tuesday the 9th look like?
I think this says environmental work.
Just environmental work.
Could they meet in the mayor's conference room?
Yeah.
Okay.
how's Tuesday
Just put
night?
us on an every Tuesday schedule.
Yeah, this is.
Hopefully we can finish it up
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
We got a good portion of the way through today.
6
That's
o'clock.
what we do, yeah.
6 o'clock, or what time are you guys thinking?
What's
I'd like to keep it consistent.
6?
And I don't forget.
So we're not a little early,
6, okay with
It's
you,
a little
Bruce?
early.
Yeah.
but-
Don, 6 o'clock, okay with you?
Yeah, I don't have my calendar with me, but, I'm good.
What's one more
I'll try and make
meeting?
it work.
What's one more
What's
meeting, Don?
one
I
more?
didn't hear you.
What's one more meeting, Don?
I'm trying to learn as much as I can.
Makes it so I can't work.
Do you work on Tuesday?
I work every day.
Is there a day that works better for you, Shannon, or not really?
I still have to job, like it, sorry.
And there's no way we could do it before our council meeting, because we start at 6.
This is July.
Yeah,
What do you mean, before
Oh,
council to meet earlier?
Like on the 6th.
yeah, like if we were meeting at 7, maybe we could do 5, and then, I mean, it'd make for a long night, but I don't see any way we're starting at 6 to even do that.
Those anyways, right?
Okay, we wouldn't be able to get done in an hour.
Yeah, it's fine, check on the night.
I was trying, Shannon, I was trying to.
I
think of something.
appreciate you.
All right, so Tuesday the 9th at 6 o'clock?
We here.
We got like 3 minutes, anybody have anything else?
Yeah, isn't there a better way to do?
Just to clarify, we left off talking about health, safety, safe, and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
we're
what,
on.
we'll pick back up, yep.
And we'll pay, okay.
We gotta go back to 1 too.
Yeah.
Oh,
we gotta
sorry,
go back to
again. So we really have 7 more days, okay.
Anything else? And I'm gonna say